Last trip that I made was in December. Went to Spain and Belgium and Norway. And I want to begin this like I begin all of them, and that is thanking you all. There are many ways you encourage me. There are many ways that you support me, sometimes financially, sometimes with lifting spirits or additional energy. And I was looking back. I went with a group to Guyana in 2009. But I think the first time I kind of began to find my own places and branch out on my own was when Carol and I went to Africa in 2011. It was January, I think. So it's been some 9 years that you all have encouraged me through this. And I'm beginning to say every time, and I hope you take it seriously, that I appreciate the encouragement. Over that many journeys, over that many years, over being that many years older than I was when I started, there are times that it really helps to have some additional energy from you all, some additional encouragement. And I really, really do appreciate that. Before I start on talking about this trip, I want to give a little bit of an update from the last trip. Picture on the left, if you saw the report from Brazil, you've seen that picture before. When I got there, my point of contact had a friend who had recently gotten married. His wife was not a member of the church, probably not all that familiar with the church. But after some conversations, she agreed to study. Kind of reluctantly. She said, well, I'll study a little bit on Friday, but I'm really not going to be able to study anymore tomorrow. After we got started studying, it was incredible. When she began to read the Bible for herself and understand the Bible for herself, her energy was just amazing. So we studied 3 hours on Friday, 3 hours on Saturday, and by Saturday night, midnight, baptized. Both her and her husband seemed like he didn't exactly have a full understanding of what he had done when he was baptized. Well, maybe, ashamedly I should say, somewhat surprisingly, I got a communication from them just about maybe 2 weeks ago. And what he said was, this is part of what you did in Brazil. Well, we know I didn't do it. He was a big part of it. And we know if it weren't for the persuasiveness of God's message and God's love, none of it would have happened. So with that disclaimer, that couple, including her, who I think this was the first time she'd ever heard of the gospel, they had already been busy evangelizing. The man says, my cousin Lucas gave his life to Christ, and my wife also had 4 friends that asked to talk together about Christ, and one of those 4 was baptized. Isn't it great?
Amen.
That after all these years, those who perhaps first hear about the gospel, first learn about the gospel, they have a great enthusiasm for spreading the gospel. What a good example. And these, in 6 hours I'd cover a lot of material, but I think that's all she knew about the Bible, all she knew about the gospel. So let us never say, I don't really know enough to teach. They're doing it. She's doing it. Now, for the journey this time, let me give you a little background. You may remember, or not, when I went to Argentina and Buenos Aires, I had some Bible studies there, and there were a couple of physical brothers there in Buenos Aires. And they told me about their mother who was living in Spain. She was living a distance out away from Madrid and sounded a little bit discouraged. There were very few Christians that were there. They didn't have a church building. They didn't have a preacher. So I talked to them later and said, well, if you can help get me in contact with her, I will try to go visit her. But what I understood later was this was sort of a continuing exposure to some of the people from Venezuela who were refugees. When I went to Quito, Ecuador, when I went to Colombia, I met some people. Some of them were from Venezuela. And I thought, oh, great, they have relatives there. I'll try to go to Venezuela. And after talking to them for a few minutes, they said, no, Stan, you don't go to Venezuela. Well, after that, I kept running into people from Venezuela. These people in Venezuela, in Buenos Aires, these 2 brothers referred me to their mother who lived in Spain just outside of Madrid. And as the story continues, it's kind of like these refugees from Venezuela. I meet with one group and they kind of pass me on to another group. And I am delighted with that.
Amen.
And 2 things. These people came out in difficult circumstances. Some of them left by choice. Some of them left because they were actually being persecuted. And what I've learned about the Christians from Venezuela, extremely responsible people. What I've heard is every place they've gone, they have made this church stronger. So these are good people. I'm grateful for an opportunity to teach them maybe a little bit, and maybe even more grateful for an opportunity to try to provide some encouragement to them. So that's the background. 2 brothers there put me in contact with their mother, close to Madrid, Spain, and so that was the next journey. Arrived in Spain, arrived at the airport in Madrid. It's kind of interesting because the place that people live that I went to visit, they weren't in the big city of Madrid. They were quite a ways out. If you can see there, the Val de Laguna. But there really wasn't a decent motel in that city, so I wound up staying there in Chinchon. I guess it's interesting to visit the big cities. I will tell you, I think I enjoy more, both in terms of the atmosphere, visiting some of the outskirts, some of the rural areas, and I really enjoy visiting the areas where the church, where there are very few people who are Christians. So I flew into the airport there in Madrid, and I just gave you just a sampling of a few pictures that I took along the way. I didn't correct the spelling there, that's also Chinchon. It was a little bit of everything. A little bit of orchards. I love the cities. On the way, we went through the winding, hilly streets of some of the quaint little cities along the way. And finally, this is where I wound up staying. There is the door to the hotel where I was staying, and it was one of many doors in that plaza. So that was kind of an interesting place. Now, when I got there, who did I meet? Of course, I met the mother of the 2 brothers. Latest, her son's in Argentina that encouraged me to go there. When I got there, I found that one of the few other Christians there was her daughter, who was a relatively new Christian. She was a new convert. But they knew some other people that lived in Merida, about 3 hours away. And we made arrangements with him, paid his way so he could come down, have a chance to fellowship with us, and also provide some translational support. He and his wife were both English teachers. So that was a few of the people that were there, and it was a delight to be with these people. And I show you some of the pictures along the way of the people here, not just in Spain, but in Belgium. You look at their faces. These are people that are happy. These are people that are happy to be together. And I pointed out here as a reminder, all of these that I've shown, these and most of the ones I'll show you, even from Belgium, are refugees from Venezuela. Now, I was kind of impressed with Spain. Now, these people are there legally. They are not people who snuck across the border, but they have a very deliberate, evidently 3-year process in Spain, and they provide a lot of support to these people while they're going through that process. I mean, I'm sure it's not great, but it's not bad. They're able at least to have their families with them. They're able to be able to associate with one another. So, glad to meet with those people now. Arranged a Bible study, and Bible study included the woman who was Latest's daughter, who was a new Christian, and this woman and this man. I was teaching, so I didn't get to take a very good picture, but 2 people who were not Christians. At first we thought they were coming, and then all of a sudden there was a knock at the door, and there they were, so we had a chance to sit around and start the study with them. Now, in preparation for the study, I wanted to, use material I was familiar with. So the material that I've been using here for many years, some of you are here, have probably been through the study and been baptized as a result of it. But I took some of the old lessons of mine and shortened them and translated them with the help of Judy Ramirez into Spanish. So I took those so I had something to pass out, but not only they could look at and read while I was there, but something they could keep and study at a later time. In fact, the lady whose name is Latest, which is really confusing, but she says, aha, I like this. This is going to be the material I use to teach people in the future. So, had an opportunity to go there. Sometimes the hardest part of a study with people is just getting it started. And I think that we did that and hope that it will continue on. At least left her some material that I know was sound to use. And from that part of Spain, the rural area around Madrid, went on to Belgium. And there I met 2 other people who were refugees from Venezuela. Rafa was the one who helped arrange the Bible studies that were there. And really, he lives in Antwerp, but he came down to Belgium to help with the organization of those things and to translate for me. He and his family, delight to be with. And we had a Bible study, and I'm calling it a trilingual Bible study. In Belgium, I guess you would expect multicultural. Well, there were some people there who spoke Spanish and some who spoke French. And so, this is Rafa, this is Stan. For those of you sitting in the back, this is Rafa, who translated my English into Spanish, and this is Diego, who translated the Spanish then into French so the other people could understand it. Look at those faces. It is a delight to even spend a short bit of time with those people. I mean, these are people who truly have joy in being with one another. And you see occasions like this when they're there and having association with one another and enjoying it, and you say, wouldn't that be nice? Well, just hang around after services tonight. We plan to have one of those joyous occasions of fellowship in the back area there. If you're visiting with us, please stay with us. And I didn't put down here that Rafa took it into Spanish and Diego took it on into French. And again, most of these people are refugees that are there as a part of that. And somebody commented, people do read the Facebook post as well. Stan, I guess that was a new experience for you with the two languages. Actually, it wasn't. Years ago when I was, the place I went most frequently was India. Once I was on the boundary line with two different states in India. And almost each state in India has a separate language. So on the boundary line, we had people from both states. So I spoke in English, it was translated into Tamil, and there was somebody standing beside the Tamil speaker that translated into Telugu, which is interesting. Sometimes it's a little hard to keep up with what you're saying when you do that, but it was a very interesting experience. But I was impressed with the joyousness of the people. And the one who was my main translator there, Rafa, he and his wife were celebrating their 15th wedding anniversary. But on the picture on the right, you see what they did? They took the 15 and reversed it to a 51. And I said, that still doesn't quite catch up with me and my wife. It's close, but not quite. So we enjoyed the association with them. Was in their home, and on a couple of different walls of the home, if you can't read those are scriptures. They had written the scriptures and posted them on their walls. And what does that remind you of? Well, it remind me of Deuteronomy 6. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand. They shall be as frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorposts. Well, this wasn't the doorposts, it was the walls and on your gates. And this wasn't the only house where I ran into that. The place where we had a Bible study, I would have pictures of the next slide. Somebody had also put the scriptures on the wall. I think that tells you something about these people. And I said the people from Venezuela, all the reports I've gotten about them, good, sound Christians, faithful Christians. So, we were there in Belgium, and I had already contacted somebody in Belgium that was a member of the Church of Christ in Belgium, and he made arrangements for me to preach that Sunday morning. I should preach the thing here. The Brussels Church of Christ. 12:30 Bible study, 1:30 worship. Well, they let me teach the class during the Bible study, and they let me preach during the worship. And I was a Jewish religious center of some kind, but we were able to go there. And again, this is kind of out in the suburbs, if you will, a little bit. Now, this door that we're standing at here is the same as this door here. But you can see it's just kind of a regular kind of neighborhood that's there. Well, when I said that I was going to be doing that, the guy that I had met most recently, the one that was a Venezuelan refugee, he says, my family and I plan to go with you on Sunday morning. And I thought, what a great idea. Slightly embarrassed, I didn't think of it, but what a great idea. And when they came, there was the occasion on Sunday morning. And if you can see, that's me over here. This is the crew that I brought with me there. This is the guy, Joseph, is the one who helped make the arrangements for me to speak there. I think he's going to make other arrangements for me in that part of the world. But the people, and I looked at the audience, and I said, are there any people from Ghana here? About half the audience raised its hand. The people from Ghana are like the ones in Acts 8. They go everywhere preaching the word. Years ago when I went to Stockholm, Sweden, the church there was started by a man from Ghana. Then I went to Montreal. Almost the whole congregation were people from Africa, and a lot of those people were from Ghana. So that was Montreal. London, England. A lot of the people in that church were from Ghana. So I thought this is great. These groups didn't know about each other. So one of the accomplishments, I think, of the trip, is really no effort on my part, but now these people know about one another. And the strength of the Ghanaian people as Christians and the Venezuelan people as Christians, I think that's going to be a really good thing. By the time I left there, they were already talking about checking for opportunities to get together. The Venezuelans in Brussels and Antwerp, 45 minutes away, they didn't even know about this group. And I think there's several different groups that this group seemed to me to be a very sound, biblical, faithful Church of Christ. So I was glad to be able to get those two groups together. And then it was time for Rafa and his family to leave Brussels. Again, they lived in Antwerp. So we spent that day together and had dinner or supper together that evening. Then it was time for them to go back into the main part of Brussels to catch the train back up to Antwerp. And it's amazing how little time you have to spend with people to truly develop an affection for them. You know, you give me 3 days with somebody, I have trouble saying goodbye. Really enjoy these people, really enjoy having the chance to be with them. And the girls, you can see their girls. You see these things they're carrying and the backpacks on their back? They did that the whole time I was with them. You talk about teaching even your little kids responsibility, taking care of your own things, being responsible for things. I thought that was a good sign. So anyhow, they left that night. We're standing in front of the Holiday Inn where I was staying. They left to go back to the train station to catch their train. And the next morning, I was in a cab to the airport, heading for the next section. But I want to mention here, really as I've done several times, contacted people at World Video Bible School. They provided me 20 pounds. I asked for a few things. I'm sure Rudy Kane understands the word few. He said 20 pounds of material in Spanish. I left some of it in Spain. I took some of it on to the Spanish-speaking people from Venezuela that were there in Brussels and Antwerp. So I had sent some pictures ahead of time. Have you all seen this material? And no, they hadn't. So they have some good, solid material. But from there, went on to Oslo, Norway. 3 things about Oslo: more snow, colder temperatures, and darker. At those latitudes, that time of the year, of course, I was doing, this 3rd week in December, the shortest daylight period of the year. But this picture was taken about 4 o'clock. It gets dark about 3:15 there. But from Oslo, the people that I knew were on the other side of Norway, over on the coast in Bergen. So I guess I could have just taken a train, but a plane. I didn't want to take another plane, so I thought, well, I'll take a train across there. For some reason, trains come to my mind. So I decided to take a train, and when I started looking at train schedules, what somebody had done, it wasn't a guided tour, but they had pieced things together, and you bought a packet of tickets, and this ticket, I wound up going on you can see it going across there. The first railroad took me up to the area where you take the Flum, a little A with a circle above it. It's pronounced like Flum Railway. And then you took a boat through the fjords. That was beautiful. I hadn't taken into account the fact that half that journey was going to be when it was dark, but the part that wasn't dark was just beautiful. You go through the mountains, you see the little things. Then there was a part of the journey that was on a bus, down winding, narrow roads in a snowstorm. That was all right. And then there was another train. It was not the quickest way to get there, but it turned out maybe to be a really good way to go. When I got to where I got there, the man I was meeting said, might have been a really good idea. They were having a lot of high winds in Bergen. He said if you'd have taken the plane, you might not have been able to land. But anyhow, so went through there, went on to Bergen, and this is Borger Anderson. No comment. And I checked it. I've been corresponding with him, I think, since 2017. And I've talked to him several times, and I'm thinking, okay, Norway, and all the places I go over there, this is kind of on the way home. So once before, I threatened to go by and see him, and then the plans changed. But this time I did. Had several conversations with him. Seems like such a good, sound person. And Bergen's kind of a neat place, too. It's kind of a historic place. I want to say quaint, but I think they would prefer the descriptor of historic than quaint. But I had a chance to meet him, talk with him. His wife is from Thailand, and this happened to be the time that she was back visiting in Thailand. I had a chance to visit their apartment there. I would love to have met her if she wasn't there. One thing that intrigued me was to hear him talk about the Americans. I guess they were converted by Americans. It sounds like Americans have come through there maybe 5 or 6 years at a time over the past 20 or 30 years. And one of them had left this Bible. And if you can't see the fine print, it's the American Standard Version of 1901. And anytime I find somebody that's looking at it, or at least uses as a reference the American Standard Version of 1901, not the NASB, which is more modern, but the ASV, American Standard Version of 1901, I know there's some pretty good Bible students. Because still, that is considered the most accurate word-for-word translation out of the original languages. So when I found that, I thought, well, he's had some good people that have influenced him in the past, and you can tell that from talking to him. You can tell he's sound and faithful. And a lot of these places that I've visited have really been an encouragement to me. Sometimes the brethren that we hear most about are the ones who are not staying close to the biblical pattern. They're varying from it to make adjustments. But I tell you, there are a lot of people out there. They're scattered all over the place. I believe the Lord's church for the future is alive and well in many of those places who will be able to preserve the truth. And if there are others who forget it, they'll be able to remind them. So really enjoyed talking to him. There were some others there. There was Eva, and there was Liv, and except for Borger's wife, who was not there, who was in Thailand, that is the Lord's church in Bergen. That handful of people. But they get together, they study, they worship together, they seem to have a good grasp of God's Word. There was a topic that one of them was studying, and so I left her some materials. I got an email from her yesterday. I haven't forgotten it yet. Saying that she was continuing to study and that she appreciated the material that I had sent, and was going to be going to Singapore with her husband. So I told her about the church in Singapore and the college that was there. Got a letter back. I think she's going to try to visit them while she's there. So, list the members of the Lord's church in a city on your hand. And in her letter, she said there were some other Americans that were planning to come in a few weeks. If any of you all would like to go to a small place where you can be a big encouragement, you let me know. I've got a list. I sent her my Old Testament overview, and she was studying the Old Testament in some place, and I showed that to her. It's kind of the forest, if you will, so you can kind of see where the trees fit together in an overview of the Old Testament. She grasped it immediately. She says, I can see where what I'm studying fits in here. So I was glad I left her a reference that maybe she would be able to use in the future. Well, from there, started at 6 in the morning. It took me 4 flights and almost 24 hours to get home. And some of the trips, it seemed like after I get back, when I get back, I feel fine, and then the allergies hit me again, and then I go down for about a week. I was sick when I left there. Those of you who remember me returning, I was not a real happy camper for several days or a week or 2 after that. A long way home, but what a good journey. What a good journey. So, thank you again for over the years helping make these possible. We're not taking the gospel into the whole world, but we're taking the gospel together. We're taking the gospel into a lot of places around the world. And I am grateful that you were helping me do that. You were using me to do that. The gospel is for people in other countries. The gospel is for people in other states. The gospel is for people in other cities. The gospel is for the people who live across the street from us, the people who live next door to us. Let us be ready. We will never find opportunities if we are not looking for them. So think about that. And if there's any way that I can help you with the opportunities, I have materials now in Spanish. So if you've got some people you want to study with, I've got some material that I have. With Judy's help, I have a lot of confidence, so you can use that. And we want to be an encouragement to those people. The last trip when I baptized somebody was rare. Usually I go to people, places where they're already Christians, and try to encourage them, maybe admonish them once in a while, but at least encourage them. But we need encouragement too. This evening, if there are any of you that feel like you could use some encouragement, use us. We're here. Or if there's somebody here that's never obeyed the gospel, you want to study what it is that God expects us to do, to become a follower of His Son, what God says we must do to have our sins forgiven, you want to study with somebody? By all means, give us an opportunity. We can do that now in Spanish or English. So give us an opportunity to do that. If there's any way that we can be of help to you this evening, please come forward as we sing. Amen.